Welcome back, everybody, to another Great Gamer Social Club. And I have some very special guests this week. Again, I have the return of Devin. Devin, say what's up.
How's it going, everybody?
And you brought in some guys that you know. We're going to start with Andrew Garahan. Am I saying your name correctly?
You sure are.
All right.
Yeah. And Devin, I got to say, you have a beautiful radio voice.
He does, right?
The resonance in your voice.
Yeah, that's why I keep inviting him back. You know, it keeps people listening.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a modern mobile game developer. We're here in New York City, and we work out of Dumbo, Brooklyn, the top of Brooklyn there. Well, I guess it's not the top.
It's one top. It's one of the tops.
It's one of the top. Yeah, it's close.
It's like an arcing top part of it, or a part chunk, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of it's close to it's close to the bottom of Manhattan there. But we work out of this space called Gumbo, which is kind of like a New York City like video game collective. So there's like a bunch of small indie studios. We're all like 1 or 2 person game dev teams, and there's some guys doing like Switch games. Actually, one of the developers that worked on Avaria, the other guy on the show here, works out of there sometimes. And
Gumbo,
yeah. So myself, our studio is called Computer Lunch, and Computer Lunch is primarily a mobile studio first. And we are working in what I consider the first-person shooter of 2019 genre, the idle game genre, one of the most popular genres on the App Store right now. And for those who are not familiar with the idle genre, some of the classics, the cornerstones of that medium is the cookie clickers. And the idle adventure capitalism. Those are the big games in the genre. So we're making one of those, and our game is it's a lot like Cookie Clickers, but it's got a science spin. It's about the evolution of all life on Earth, and I'll talk more about that in the future.
Word up.
Yeah. And the also another Andrew. What's your full name?
I'm Andrew Lindy.
Okay, so Andrew Lindy and Andrew Garahan. So
we got Big G and then we got just Andrew.
Okay, got you, Big G. I like that one. All right,
yeah.
All right.
But only with the LIL. Little.
And with an apostrophe too, or just little. Yeah, let's make it correct. No, I'm Andrew from Juncture Media, and we're making a game called AVARIAvs. It's our first game. It's a PvP JRPG. That's the genre that we're calling it. So we think it's kind of unique in that way. We wanted to take Final Fantasy battle systems, the old school turn-based ones, and make it PvP. So we are actually coming out on Steam, debuting on Steam on May 9th. You can wishlist us right now. You can have the game in your hands in about 3 weeks.
Awesome.
So that's pretty much all I'm gonna say whenever you guys get quiet. So if you get too quiet, I'm gonna start plugging my shit.
No, that's what this is about. It's about
Versus May 9th, right?
May 9th. Yeah, that's the date.
I'm excited. Yeah, I've been following Avari for a while. I was excited to get it out there. Yeah.
Andrew works right next to the lead developer, which is Samuel Ang, and he put out a game on Switch recently. If you have a Switch, you need to go pick up Zarvat.
Also fun.
That's Snow Hydra's game, and that game dropped in October on Switch. There's some new content coming out for it soon. Definitely go check that out if you have a Switch.
So I just want to plug where I actually met Andrew L here, Andrew Linden. So and it's through Andrew Garahan.
No, it's just Andrew and Big G.
And Big G. So Big G introduced
just call me lunch from now on.
You got it. All right.
Lunch.
So lunch. I went to some playcrafting events with Lunch, and playcrafting is a group that has game developers demo their games, expo them. You can try them out after the demos are done. It's a lot of fun. There's all different types of games, including tabletop games that are demoed there. an absolute blast. It's Dan that runs it, right? Is that
Dan Butchko? Yeah, shout out to Dan and Playcrafting. Playcrafting's the shit.
Yeah, and also I went to there's a place called Baby Castles that also
Baby
has
Castles
demos
is
of
also
games
shit.
and and shows off stuff, and that's where I met Sam Eng and some other people because of Zarvat's release. There was the release party there.
Nice,
And,
you were there
yeah,
too.
so
I was there that night as well.
Yeah, so it's a
was Andrew.
tight knit community. Yeah, it's
Big G.
yeah, a tight knit community, and it's for anyone who's interested in gaming and how games are developed or looking to get into it themselves. Definitely look those things up on Facebook or wherever else. They're worth checking out.
Yeah, it's a pretty close knit community. Devin, didn't you date one of my
Former students and
didn't
friends.
Wait, who's the teacher? Who's the student? I also am a part-time cop.
No.
Who is the teacher and who is the student? Because that's important information.
This thing. No, this was actually. I mean, Devin. I
No, it's cool.
I don't know too many personal details, but the last game, the last video game.
Personal details. This is the juicy stuff. This is what the people.
Yeah, this is what they want. That's why I got silent. I'm writing this down.
People what they want.
So the last video game we worked on was like an action arcade game called Mama Hawk, and Elena Fadina was one of my students at New York Film Academy. I was teaching there, and she was one of the best programmers in the class. So Kati, my wife, who's also in video games, she really wanted a programmer to help out with her project because I wasn't available to do it, and so we brought on Elena, and my wife and Elena worked on this thing for a while. And during that process, I got to know Devin, and we became friends also. So
nice.
Yeah. So that's how I know him.
Yeah, well, playcrafting. Yeah, playcrafting is pretty sweet. That's actually how I got started with this project. I was actually going to playcrafting when it wasn't even called playcrafting. It was just called the New York Gaming Meetup on Meetup.com.
Yeah.
You know what? I remember it when it had that name. I wasn't familiar with playcrafting, but I remember seeing the other one.
That's when I started going, and I was actually working in music at that time. I was running an indie label in Brooklyn, and I was looking for stuff to do at night that wasn't going to clubs and listening to indie bands.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I'll go look at indie developers then. And so I started going to that, and that was really where the whole idea to make AVARIAvs pretty much came from, was going to those early meetups and watching all these people that I'm like, okay, these guys are all just kind of trying to figure it out too. They're not pros.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's learning. You got to start somewhere, and it's important to be around people that are all at that level, so you know that you're not the only one trying to figure out all this really tough stuff.
Yeah. So, question with AVARIAvs, right now, I saw a little footage of it on YouTube, and I saw it's like real time. It's turn-based combat. I saw you had different classes. You said it was kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics influenced.
So it's like it's my love letter to all the Final Fantasy battle systems from 10 and below, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all the truly turn-based Final Fantasies, I wanted to live in a world where Square Enix kept making turn-based games and not these like mash X to win action style games. I really missed the turn-based strategy, but never really got the good graphics of the new consoles with that kind of gameplay. So in my reality, I was like, I just want to make a game where Final Fantasy continued on this alternate timeline where there's still hundreds of millions of dollars being pumped into turn-based games. Like, what would it look like and what would it be like? And obviously I can't get hundreds of millions of dollars, but I can try to live in that world. And that's like the creative vision for the game,
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I saw when I watched the quick footage of it, I saw that it's also there's like a clock. So like when two people are playing, I saw that you pick your team and then the skills are on a time. I guess that do they have cooldowns? Like how does that work? How does the mechanics work?
So there's 16 heroes first of all, and you build teams of 3, so you can build over 2,000 different parties in the game.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's about team composition and not necessarily character customization in the in this mode. So basically, you pick a party, and then your actions are inputted at the same time as your opponent. So they have a timer, you have a timer. You put in the actions for each of your characters before the timer runs out, and then you guys, the result phase happens at the same time. So basically, you're both inputting, and then you watch what happens.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you don't have time to know what they're gonna do. It's like you're both doing it at the same time, and then it's after. Like, I gotcha. Because if you had some games where it's like one team goes and the other team goes, you could kind of counter what the other one did. But this one, you're both going at the same time.
Yeah, I think there's some noise. I couldn't really hear you.
Yeah.
What did you say at the very end?
I said so. Hold on. Yeah, there's a lot of background noise. Real quick.
Sorry, let me
No problem.
Hey, quiet, guys. Sorry about that.
Nah, no worries. So yeah, like I was saying, it seems that you both parties input everything at the same time, so you can't really watch what the other team is doing when one team goes first. You're both doing it at the same time, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's just local split screen mode. So
Yeah.
we're at shows, we're showing local split screen where you are both playing on the same screen, like GoldenEye back in the day. And if you want to screen watch, you can screen watch. But the game is very complex, and even screen watching by an expert is only useful to a point.
Yep.
So when you play online, you don't see your opponent at all. You have the screen to yourself, and so it's just you inputting your abilities. And the thing is as the match progresses. Our matches are about they're on average like 7 minutes long, so they're pretty quick. Basically, as it progresses, the complexity of your decisions is going to keep increasing. You have to do upgrades for 3 characters. You have to perform mini games for all 3 characters.
Oh, okay.
And pretty soon that timer that remains constant through the entire game starts to feel really short by the end of the match, because your characters are leveling up, your abilities are getting stronger.
Oh, I
every
gotcha.
Decision just becomes so much more impactful as time goes on. And then there's a sudden death mechanic that will put a bookend on the match, if things are not, going quick enough.
I have to say, I actually just won my first match online.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because of the final countdown. The judge killed all 3 of the other guys' characters at once. I only had one left, though, so I don't know how that worked, but he died.
So the judge currently is just killing the characters with the lowest percentage HP. So it starts with 1, and then it goes to 2, and then 3, and so on. So at that point, it sounds like it had already gotten to 3 targets. And that's one of the things that has been a huge debate for like a year in the game, because we basically opened up the beta once we finished our Kickstarter, and we've had about 400 to 500 people participating in the beta for almost a year now. It was a closed beta, and that's where we got all of our balance and battle system data and all that stuff. But at this point, I totally lost track of what I was even talking about.
About the judge.
The judge. At this point, the judge has been something we've been going back and forth on about a lot, especially in the past year. And we have some changes that we might roll out, after May 9th. Like, I don't know, who's listening, but like, if you don't make games, like, you imagine a game getting finished and then it just comes out. As Big G can attest to, the launch date is just the beginning of the life cycle of a game, really, and then you have to support it, and you have to be engaging the community, and you have to listen to their requests, and you have to be able to patch the game on a moment's notice if something's really broken. Like, even as an indie, you are running a service as soon as your game goes live, in one way or another, or all the ways. So, getting ready for that and heading up to that is pretty crazy. But we're going to change the judge. We got the judges on our mind, because that situation that you just described with 1 character being up and 3 getting murked and like the match being over, like, that doesn't feel good if you're the person who has 3. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I did want to just kind of comment on what you were just saying about how you have to be involved with the community and make changes to the game. I think maybe I'm wrong about this, because how would I know? But I would think for an indie developer, it's even more important to do that because like with big game developments, it feels like the dev team is never listening. They're never able to make the changes that are necessary. I mean, you've got bugs in games like Dungeons and Dragons Online, World of Warcraft, Lord of the Rings Online that have been there forever and they're never going to get changed. But I feel like am I wrong about this, that the indie developer is more in touch with the community and more capable of making those necessary changes?
I mean, I know Big G probably has some opinions on this too, but
yeah. Let me field
go
this one.
for it.
I just noticed I was on mute. Yeah, so like, the games now, like the idea. I was talking to Arthur, who has this great game, Reassembly, who's also at Gumbo, and we were talking about like now there really is no release date. Like with things like early access. I mean, early access kind of is your release date. I think Lindy, you're entering early access. Is that correct?
No, we're actually doing 1.0 on May 9. Yeah, it's 1.0 on May 9.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so you're doing your full-on release.
But I mean, Steam is a first stepping stone for us. You know, it's our first game. We didn't want to get in over our head with platforms.
Yeah,
so,
I think
it's not a soft launch, but it's just Steam right now. You know,
especially if you're bringing it to consoles. I think Steam offline platform because the players on Steam are a little more sophisticated and they're it can be a little more experimental and you can like change stuff. Whereas like you push a build to like the PlayStation, you can't just patch it the next day. You got to go through a huge certification process. And
exactly.
Steam, I can upload something right now and players would have it in 5 minutes.
I can push a button right now, and if you guys have Avaria on your computer right now, I can push a button right now, and within about 30 seconds. Steam would start changing the build on yours to whatever build I pointed to here. It's like scarily fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but in terms of listening to the community, like pretty small studio, like it's mostly like me as the main game programmer and designer, and then we have a junior programmer, someone who helps out 3D art, and then like a UI designer. And most of these people are kind of part time. They work like part of the week. With us, but we are constant because we're so small. Like we don't have like a QA team. A lot of times we're not even sure what's going on with the game. So like in a big studio, you might have like hired people that are helping out with the QA, figuring out like what's going on with the game, how is it playtesting. But for us, it's really the players themselves. So we're our main platform is the Android phone platform, and you might not have known this, but Android also has early access. We launched our game worldwide to the globe on Android about 5 months ago within their early access program. So if you look our game up, it'll say "Sell to Singularity" and then "Unreleased" at the end of it because it hasn't officially been released. However, anybody can find it, anyone can search it. So for all intents and purposes, it's just like Steam early access. There's like two flip sides to that. So on one side, it's cool because we can get beta testers, we can get their feedback, and we can actively like listen to their feedback, get new features in there, and figure out what's wrong with the game to make it the best game it can be. But on the other side, like that's kind of our launch. Like, I mean, the game's out now, so when we officially say like, "Hey, it's out," it's been out for 5 months already. Like it's almost an illusion. It's like, hey, it's out now.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of the release becomes a little more blurry. And then as Lindy was mentioning, it becomes like, how do you support that, and how do you get players really into it, and how do you how do you get them to play your game and not I don't know. Something else.
it's crazy. I mean, like early access, like you said, it's a double-edged sword, and you can call it early access on one platform. You can call it what it is on another platform. Yeah. But it's all the same thing. You get to build a community, and I think when you're starting out, which I am. I mean, this is my first game. Like I'm like literally just starting. This is the very first thing that I've done. You need to get your feet on the ground, and you need to get something out into the world, and so that's just kind of like the starting point. And yeah, so I think the community is important because you don't have any of that. You didn't come from a AAA studio, or you haven't been working in the industry for 30 years. And when you say, "Hey, I'm going to make a game," people are like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah.
You say, "I'm going to make a game," and you've never made one before, or haven't made one that like hundreds of thousands of people know about. nobody gives a shit. So finding a way to make noise in that situation also becomes one of your biggest challenges. Not even making a good game. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you got to make a good game. That's a given. You know.
But how many people with the experience or the name behind them release utter shit, and they're gonna have endless droves of people playing them because they have the reputation. So I get what you're saying. It's like that in all of the arts though. Like even like I said, when I was coming from music, it was the same thing. We getting out there and trying to get build your following when you start a new project, and that's the grind. But that's you have a passion for it, and that's what pushes you forward, and hopefully your community will grow and people will see the passion that you put into your work.
And one thing that I wanted to touch on too when you mentioned this is like the other thing about being indie and also just having any kind of community, whether it's like 10 dudes on Discord, doesn't have to be dudes, 10 people on Discord, right? It doesn't matter. Like if you have people who care about it and they're going to start working, they start working on the game in a way. They really are. They're at the very least they're doing QA and they're doing like focus group play test for you.
They're literally these people are closer to the game than even the developers, because like the players, like they're the ones in the game. Like
we don't get to play the fucking games.
Yeah, I'm just like we gotta it's so high level for the developers. We're thinking about like what feature are we doing? What's the next mission or story we're trying to program? But we're not actually in the game playing it. So to have like our Discord community just saying like this is a problem or I wish we could do this feature, like that's what we want to hear. Like there is a co-op where we're designing it together.
So
although we do make the choices at the end of the day.
Well, just to interject there, one of the funniest experiences I had hanging out with you, Lunch, Andrew G. At one of the play craftings, you were just sitting watching Discord. We were checking people in, and you were reading the comments about Cell to Singularity, and you were like, this guy's just like saying that these load screen things, like the pop-up screens for when you would get a new organism, are cancer. And this it was just hysterical. Like, but you kind of respected the complaints coming in. I remember you being like, those are sometimes more useful than just people being like, hey, it's great, I love it, great job,
Yeah, this guy, I'll just paraphrase what he said. So this was actually on Reddit. So Reddit has also been, Discord's been a big part of our community for the game, but Reddit has also been. So on Reddit, there's a channel called Idle Mouse Clickers or something, and it's all about idle games. And these Redditors are just really into the genre, and they know everything, they play it. And we've been posting our game there every 2 months. We'll post a build and try to get feedback. And they are. I'm always kind of bracing myself because they're very opinionated, and sometimes they don't like it. And
Reddit can be brutal.
Yeah, so I think I'll just paraphrase what they said. So it was one guy, and we got a lot of engagement too. So at the end of the day, there's 3 types of feedback you can get. You can get feedback like, I love your game, it's great, this is awesome. You can get like, this game's terrible, I hate it. But the worst type of feedback is silence. Like if no one's engaging with your thing, if no one cares, like that's the worst sign. And if somebody hates your game, the only thing that generates pure hatred from anyone is when they can see the vision, they can see what you wanted to create, but you just missed it, because the player's like, you got so close to the promise there, and you just screwed it up because you compromised somewhere, or you didn't take it where it needed to go, and that's where the true hatred comes. So I would say if people hate your game, you're closer than you are if people say like great job.
That's pretty funny.
No, that's totally true. And there's a saying that somebody told me, I can't remember who said it, but it's always true, I think. And it's if somebody tells you there's something wrong with your game, they're always right. All right? If there's something wrong with your game and they tell you, they're always right. But when they tell you how to fix it, 99.9% of the time, they're always wrong. So you have to listen to what people don't like, but you pretty much turn off your brain after they start telling you, yeah, but you should just make it like, double the XP, bro. Like, give me more XP. That'll fix it, dude. Like, don't listen to that shit, because you know the systems, you know all the decisions that have led you there. You know, also, I don't know, Big G would probably attest to this, but when you're at a convention and somebody's like, "Yo, did you ever think about like doing that, dude?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, actually, the game used to be like that, and now it's like this because that way totally sucked." Like that always happens. I always feel like, you know, even the suggestions are things you've already, you know, tried and at least, you know, demoed in some kind of fashion.
Yeah. You play test. Great thing. Again, I think you're like, okay, this is important to touch on.
You're kind of cutting out there, Andrew.
Oh yeah, just hearing, you hear a lot of the same feedback. It just confirms that, like, hey, this is a legitimate viewpoint. But solving the problem is harder than
But if people are playing, like you said, it doesn't really matter what the feedback is. And now that sentiment, I think, completely disappears. That is something that's very real about you being early access and going live. Is pretty soon, you know, Steam reviews are going to be something that I'm going to lose sleep or be popping champagne bottles over. You know what I mean? That will like kind of make or break my game, at least in an algorithm sense, very early on. And that's some very real you know, feedback that players can give that will affect, you know, all kinds of things.
Yeah. So, but it's great getting feedback. So Reddit has been a big part of our channel. But like I said, every time we post about every 2 months with a new update, I'm always kind of bracing myself because it's like, all right, I got to put my emotional armor on because these guys are gonna chew me apart a little bit. And one of my favorites, I'll just read this little thing. So this is one Redditor, Dangder, that's his name, Dangder. So like I had said, I said our game is getting close to release, so much of the gameplay is locked in at this point. So because we've done a lot of development, can't change everything. Redditors, they have so many different. Some of them are good, but like I'm basically like it's getting close to release, so we have to. The gameplay's kind of locked in. So this guy, Dang Deer, he quotes me and he says, "Well, that's unfortunate for you because your gameplay is utter shit." And then he says, "It's clear that you don't understand the idle genre. Oh, it's clear that your understanding of the idle genre is flawed. Your game feels like something a graphic designer with no knowledge of idle games would make. It tries to focus on graphic aspects that no one cares about, completely ignores the actual game. And from what other commenters made, it seems like you only superficially listen to any advice. You have your point of view and ignore literally everyone else's suggestion." So this guy like grills me. He says I don't even understand my craft. But this guy, I never even responded to him because I hurt my feelings so bad. but this guy roasted me. Like when you get roasted, like that's a lot of. It's not love that goes into it, but it's energy. So
it's energy.
And then the guy, but below that, then he's like, now for more constructive criticism, and then he like lists his thoughts and stuff, and all his points were actually really thoughtful. So Reddit is kind of a dangerous zone, but those people really care about it. And from a game designer's, like you're trying to make something that means something to people, and showing it to the fans. I mean, you guys were talking about some games that you were frustrated with, like. I think that's kind of the nature of the beast. Like people love these games, so they have opinions about them. I think it's great. I love the. I
mean, shit. Look at like From Software games, Demon Souls, Dark Souls. They are so buggy, and people love them for that. Yeah. Like you get fucking killed through a wall that the enemy has no reason to hit you through, and you're like, well, that's what I should expect. I know that shit's gonna happen. You know.
Was it Silver K or what's that new one?
Yeah. Shadows Die Twice.
Soroko, I can't say it.
I mean, that brings up something that, you know, is from being a kid, and I mean, games used to just get, you know, printed on their gold master and distributed via cartridge or, you know, later CD, and there was no fucking internet, and the game had to be done and like good by the time it went out the door. Otherwise, it was done for. And those days are kind of done now. It feels like everybody's testing out branding and they're testing out GIFs and like fucking, you know, like a couple key art images. And if people like attached those, I feel like that's where funding goes, whether it's investment or or just sales. You know what I mean? Like they're just looking for the buzz first, and I think that's how a lot of games are being chosen, and I think that makes sense. You want to see some energy going towards something, even like Andrew is saying, like even shitty reviews are still comments. People are just looking at how many comments does it have, how many retweets does it have, how many views does it have. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, so that buzz factor, I think, is what is something that you constantly have to be
Yeah, and I think even like the stuff that's getting the super critical reviews, like, I mean, if critics are loving it, it's kind of the end of the genre in a way. Like they've understood it. They said, like, this is the way to do it. This is the perfected piece of that genre. By the time you have that, like the main audience has just moved on. They're on something even like way different. You don't even understand what it is. Like you can't calculate like the new genres that are going to like explode in the future.
Yeah, you just got to make something good and not try to follow trends, because even AAA companies with all the money and all the resources in the world try to follow trends. And I mean, how many?
Yeah, that doesn't work, because I feel that when they try to follow trends, sometimes what happens is by the time the game is released, the trend is already dead, and it's like, oh, that's too old. That's old.
And the technology changes, and the world changes, and it only changes faster. Every day that goes by, things only change faster. So you have to either make something from the heart, or you have to make it in like one day and put it out.
It's kind of like Frank, you and Howie were talking about some of these games in your first episode, about some of these games that took years to develop.
Oh yeah, that was Anthem.
That's got to be insane as a coder. Well,
here's the thing.
A game 15 years ago, and technology has changed so much in 15 years. How the fuck do you handle that?
Well, Anthem,
that's cancer brewing somewhere in one organ in your body, and you don't realize it until you're like 50.
I mean, I'm sure everybody here knows about the debacle that was Anthem. I mean, when I read there are people from BioWare that were doing interviews with Kotaku and anonymous interviews where they said that now when Anthem was when they were showing footage of it at E3, it wasn't even a real game. It was just mock footage they put together to make it look like the game was playable.
And that's how they got the budget, man. They tested the waters, and people went crazy for it. But so they said, all right, they probably gave a wing of their studio, like, here's a bunch of money, okay, it's a big deal now, make it a big deal, and you have to add in all these features that maybe you weren't even thinking about.
Yeah,
I could see how that could get wildly out of hand.
And what's crazy is they said that when I picked up the game, they were like, yeah, it's been in development for 7 years, but it was actually in pre-development. It was just pictures. It was still pictures, images, and they said that EA gave them 16 months to complete that game, to work, to start it and complete it. And I'm like, now when you actually, in hindsight, when I played it, I was like, for them to pull this off in 16 months, that was a talented crew. But unfortunately, when people are dropping $60 and the hype train was so strong behind it, that's why so many people were really taken back and burned by it, that now, even if they fix it going forward, I think the community is dead, honestly. And it sucks that I part of me wants them to just drop it, but then at the same rate you don't, because there's so much potential here. But I feel like even someone like me, I probably, even when they fix it, I probably won't go back to it, and I'm like, just move on to the next thing.
It's so hard. I mean, and those contracts.
Yeah.
I mean, those contracts are so ironclad. Yeah. That, they've got their budgets and their milestones locked in, and they had to deliver a game. They didn't have a choice. They had to deliver a game, and I can only imagine. Like I said, this is literally my first project, but I mean, I can fantasize about having hundreds of people, working on the project, and how much pressure that must be for the leadership, and that must be absolutely insane.
Yeah, in the interview they said that every day you'd have random people just breaking down and crying because they were working, and it was a really sad. I was reading it, I felt sorry for these people. I'm like, damn, it sounded like digital slave labor, and that's what it sounded like.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy. I mean, if you think of the creative process, let's say you have one indie dev making their little dream game, in their house. They're working on it, but they're doing the whole thing themselves. So every time they have a They work on it and they do a little drawing, and they scrap ideas. They might have an idea, a feature, they spend a day on it, then they just trash it. But it doesn't matter. It's just them. It's just one person. But then you change that one individual to like 500 people, and that little feature that is now 25 people working on something, and their work is months of work and just gets trashed. Or the idea is not working right. It's like it gets kind of violent, a bit of a meat grinder as the art process gets big. I don't think the art process can be quite violent because the goal is to make really quality art. And it's
subjective and objective.
Yep.
At the same time.
Yep.
It's pretty hard.
I understand. I get it, man. Real quick because we're gonna start to wrap up soon. I know we have a deadline that you guys have to be out by.
Bedtime.
I know, bedtime deadline. So, real quick, I just wanted to know, for both of you, did you ever think about contacting some streamers that are into the genre of your game on Twitch or on D Live or on YouTube and seeing if you can get your early release titles into their hands and see if you could build up a bigger community? Is that something that crossed your guys' mind? Or
well, Andrew, why don't you go first and then I'll go second.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my game.
It's totally different for both of us. The answer is going to be completely different. So I'll have him go first.
We're in very different types of games and different genres. But we did release our game on Steam right before Christmas. We decided to get it in early access before the Christmas season, about 3 weeks before Christmas. Our game is a free-to-play game, so it's free on the store. And so we launched it 3 weeks before Christmas, and then we did a big Reddit post to get people to download it. And we hit Steam pretty hard, and it was in the free-to-play section for a while, and the game had like a pretty good look to it. So I think it tickles kind of the Civilization Spore player. So we had a bunch of players, and we focused mostly on Reddit to get people into the thing, but we did get some streamers to pick it up, and for some reason it's really popular in Russia. So we got some serious Russian streamers.
That's cool.
They found it. So we had one guy over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He was in love with the game and he was playing it like crazy. And then with the one guy that did it, a bunch of other people did too. But I think the main reason they played it is less because we reached out to them, but more it just kind of connected what they were interested in at the time. It was also free to play. I think the chain reaction was it was free. And then the second thing was we did hit hard on Steam, so a lot of people saw it. Also, the timing wasn't bad, like Christmas time, so people are kind of looking for random things. And then it was a little different. So our game is it's almost like a science documentary thing. So it just kind of stood out. I think it was a little weird for people. And it was also translated into Russian, but we got some good engagement with there. So we had more success just trying to make something that I guess stands out for people. That's not an easy thing to figure out, though.
Okay, and what about you, Andrew?
Well, I mean, I've been databasing people on Twitch and Mixer and press reviewers. In the JRPG world, there's not too many games that come out in the genre that really make some buzz. So it's really easy to find the top writers from all the major publications because you just look to who covered Persona, who covered Final Fantasy 15, who covered I Am Setsuna, and who covered Octopath Traveler. Boom. I've got the list of the guys that are reviewing those kind of games at all the different outlets. So that's easy to find. Same thing goes for on Twitch and Mixer. We're just starting. I'm not trying to contact somebody who has 1 million followers. There's a dollar
Gotcha.
Gotcha. Every minute of their time, So for us, it's we got to find somebody who is at night doing a speed run of Final Fantasy 7 at 2 a.m, and there's 50 people watching, but they're all chatting and hanging out. If that guy is playing AVARIAvs when it comes out on opening weekend, we have a chance of getting a tiny little groundswell, you know,
Mhm.
and all we can, like, look at Apex Legends right now. That's a marketing strategy that I've been saying for years that I was going to do with AVARIAvs. They stole my idea,
Mhm.
but all your money and all your effort should literally just go into like 2 days. That's it.
Mhm.
Like the news cycle is hourly, if not even like 10 to 15 minutes now. Like, important world news comes every 15 minutes. If you think you're going to be important to like a mass group of people for longer than a weekend, you're either delusional or you've got like millions and millions and millions of dollars. And that's my opinion. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you got to shoot for like a weekend of activity. And I think finding those, you know, those streamers that like really are passionate about the genre will be hopefully our key to at least letting you know, the super fans of the genre know that there's a, you know, there's a new game coming out.
Yeah.
And what are you guys doing on May 9th?
I was gonna say I'm gonna be playing AVARIAvs.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because you know what we're going to be doing that weekend. This is unannounced, and I'll tell you guys right now. And we're working on it, but we're working on a big tournament for that weekend that'll hopefully have a pretty cool cash prize associated with it. So that's something that we're looking to announce in the next week or two.
What's going on with the April one? I remember you were gonna do like an end of April.
Yeah, that
tournament.
one is now going to be this. So
Okay, cool.
Moving that championship is going to be now, and it's going to be an invitational instead of a championship. So
Yeah.
that'll all be wrapped up in the press release that hopefully we can send out in the next week.
Yeah, because I qualified for that, so I'm definitely gonna be.
You're in. You're in. You qualified in New York, right?
I was 6-0 before I started playing online and getting my ass kicked by people that were like pros already. I'm like, God damn, I thought I was good.
It's always like that.
Well, if you want any, you know, we're gonna. So for you guys, we're giving out keys to, you know, press and influencers 1 week before launch. So that's May 2nd. So for you lucky people, hit me up on May 2nd, and I'll hook you up with keys so you can get a week head start on everybody before the tournament opens up.
It's an awesome game. So just because I know we got to wrap up in a couple of minutes, I just want to like say, so AVARIAvs is an amazingly fun game. If you love the JRPG, Final Fantasy, not just look and feel, and you want PvP, you want to go up against people, you know, that's a big thing in mine. If I'm playing a game I love PvP, AVARIAvs is definitely worth it. Zelda Singularity, also excellent, a lot of fun. I think it's a great clicker idle game. Screw what everyone says.
And we got we got our new. We got this big dinosaur patch coming out, like the evolution of dinosaurs. So
Nice.
It's gonna be good.
I also so I had some students of mine, some classes of mine play Zelda Singularity because I was doing like a science/history interdisciplinary program this year, and the kids loved it. I gave them extra credit for finishing it. They had a really good time with it. Also Mama Hawk, a lot of fun too. Kati's game is great. It evolved from when I first got introduced to it, but it's beautiful and a lot of fun still. It's even better, much better
awesome.
now.
That's
Mama Hawk was her game, but now she's actually at Dots, the mobile game company. I don't know if any of your listeners. Yeah.
And there's one other game that I picked up at PAX. It was the game that was right next to yours, Andrew Lunch. It was the Great Gaia's, basically Dungeons and Dragons.
Man, you like those RPGs, man.
Final Fantasy VI meets Dungeons and Dragons. It is straight up D&D. I mean, there's a paladin that summons his mount and charges in on a horse. I'm like, it is gorgeous and fun. So yeah,
it looks just like Final Fantasy's.
It does.
Graphic, straight up Super Nintendo. Those guys were bugging me because they kept playing their music so loud the whole time. I'm just listening.
It is a catchy freaking soundtrack too. I wake up.
Oh really? Okay.
No, he was like,
you wake up to that music.
I shit you not. It's in my goddamn head.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
Funny.
So, what's that game called again? Gaia or something?
The Great Gaius. Yeah. So Gaias. Great Gaius.
So anyway, we're gonna wrap this one up. Devin, make sure to I have the websites here. I'm gonna put links to these games up. Even if you have some YouTube footage that you want, just post it in the Discord, and I'll put it up on the blog, and I'll share it on social media. See what bites, and I just want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy day to join the cast. And so thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Lunch. Devin, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And thank everybody for coming to the Social Club.
Cool. Thanks for having us on. We'll see you guys on May 9th later.
You got it, May 9th.
Got it. Take
See
care.
ya.